Ladies and gentlemen, oh no, Bitcoin, it's reversing back down. We were trying to break out of the bullish pennant yesterday, but it looks like it was a fake out for now. Remember, I mentioned that with bullish pennants for Bitcoin, usually it does tend to be a fake out or it's a retest and we continue pumping towards the upside. The only issue we had was the volume was not significant enough. So when you are breaking out from a bullish pennant, you want the volume bar on that particular price candle to be the highest out of all of the previous candles you experienced as this bullish pennant was forming, but that was not the case, ladies and gentlemen. And there was one more factor which is causing Bitcoin to lag behind and not continue pumping towards the upside, and that is the Bitcoin ETF. So if you want to find out more, make sure to stay tuned until the end of today's video. I just finished the Moon Show, which was like a 1 hour live stream. So if you were able to watch that, then you got all of these insights a couple of minutes back, or at least a couple of hours back actually now, by the time that this video is posted. But there are a couple of additional things that I want to mention. So the first thing is first, Bitcoin is correcting towards a very important level of support, which is 69.1K. If Bitcoin holds 69.1K, that's fine. That's going to be all right. But if Bitcoin does not hold 69.1K, that's where I'm going to be basically starting to get concerned, right? So on the macro time frame for Bitcoin, which is the weekly time frame, we have Consensio. That's built up from the 3, 7, and 30 period SMAs. We can see currently that the 3 and 7 period moving averages have yet to be crossed into each other. And if we measure their accuracy, it's a trading system called Consensio, we can see that in the previous all-time highs for Bitcoin, or even in the 31K tops for Bitcoin, whenever we had the 3 and 7 period moving averages crossing into each other, it indicated a local top, and then we reversed quite drastically. Here we can see that if the price of Bitcoin in this candle in particular closes in the red, then it will suggest that these 3 and 7 period moving averages could potentially cross into each other one more time. And if we have that confirmation where Bitcoin drops to 64, 65K, that could be a local top for Bitcoin. That's the only concerning thing. But until those Consensio moving averages cross into each other, the trend is still bullish. And as you guys know in trading, the trend is your friend. So we perfectly retested it right now. That's the great thing about making videos in price action or when there's volatility, because it tends to happen as soon as possible. So we've retested support. It's going to be important that we keep the support maybe towards the ending of this video. We break below it or we see a rebound, and then we can make a better judgment in terms of my trade. I've been long since 43K. I did add some margin to this trade at 71.9K, but it's okay because it is a position trade, meaning that I will keep this trade for months and months and months, and I'm not planning on closing it until Bitcoin hits $90,000 to $95,000. But regardless, Bitcoin, the Bollinger Bands are squeezing, and we will have a drastic move soon. Whether it will be bullish or bearish, it's going to be indicated by if Bitcoin is able to confirm a breakout with bullish volume or not. But right now, things are not looking too optimistic. In the macro, I'm still bullish. We can see that on the monthly time frame. We have the super trend, which is in the green. And we have a couple of very, very good fundamental analysis that we discussed yesterday about the Hong Kong spot ETFs. So in the macro, I am very, very bullish, but in the short term, it is possible that we reverse to, well, the current point that we're at right now. And potentially if we dump further, I'd say 68.5 is a good level of support. If we don't bounce from those levels, then it's concerning on the weekly macro time frame. We know that there's been now it's the 8th candle, which is currently the 8th bullish candle in a row. I think the weekly candle is now, if we see the monthly, so the monthly is currently red, right? But if we close in the green, that's going to be the 8th green candle in a row. And the higher something goes up, the faster it falls down. And it's important that we see somewhat of a reversal before we continue our parabolic astronomical highs. But if we don't see that reversal now, then we'll just be delaying a bigger one in the future. But that's pretty much it for the TA. Currently, Bitcoin $69,000. If 68.5 doesn't hold, then for future reference, we should be looking at $66,500. Hopefully, by the next video, it doesn't dump down to those levels. But if it does, then I'll be posting my updated analysis in the Crypto Kids community, so you can join that for free at the top right-hand section. But now let's go into the fundamental analysis, because the reason why Bitcoin is dumping is also due to the Bitcoin spot ETFs, which experienced outflows of $223 million. Now, this is super odd because the price of Bitcoin 2 days ago was still pumping, right? And these ETFs represent data from the past 2 days or the past 1 day. And theoretically, this should be a positive inflow number. But no, sir, it was $223 million of outflows, with $303 million coming out from GBTC. Now, James Seyfarth and a lot of other ETF analysts have mentioned that all the big institutions have been completely liquidated. But it looks like Genesis holders of Grayscale, meaning the initial holders of Grayscale, are right now pulling out of their positions, and that's why we have huge outflows. What was super concerning is that IBIT accumulated some of its lowest numbers of Bitcoin, and that's why we led to a full outflow day. The market has just opened, and the volatility is being caused due to that reason. It is possible that Bitcoin closes that CME gap that was created. Look at that. So far, an okay reversal, but hope it holds. On the CME gap, we do have a gap at 68.2K. So if that 68.2K gap closes, then I think it will give us that allowance in terms of technical analysis that we can continue higher. But in the short term, I would be careful of that CME gap. And hopefully today's inflows will print bullish so that the market won't dump astronomical numbers, but likely going into Thursday, we'll have another negative day if this candle closes in the red, and that wouldn't be the perfect thing to experience. Now, this is good news, right? So we had the bearish news, but this is good news that will cheer you up. So we talked about the Hong Kong ETFs getting approved and potentially hundreds of billions of dollars worth of capital coming into Bitcoin. But the thing is, a lot of the Asian market has been moving out of Asian stocks and Asian companies. And if we see an ETF approval in Hong Kong, we will allow a bunch of Asian investors who were not allowed to buy up US Bitcoin spot ETFs to be getting exposure into these new Asian Bitcoin ETFs. And we can see that a lot of Asian investors have been pulling their money out of the Asian stock market and putting it into the US stock market, into the European markets. And here they got the chance of buying some gold ETFs that caused a premium of 30% on the stock and forced it to halt trading. And in my personal opinion, if we do see a Bitcoin spot ETF approval, we may see a similar kind of activity that would print so incredible numbers in terms of inflows to these new spot ETFs that it would trump the American spot ETFs, causing the price of Bitcoin in the macro term to explode. So that is still my stance. And if we compare Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation or as a currency, currently we can see that the 2-year inflation expectations and the price of gold and the price of Bitcoin are very closely correlated. So people are treating the asset as a hedge against inflation, which is incredible because we've moved on from being a tech stock and we've matured as an asset class. And that is a very good sign. Now, another very good sign is that a Japanese stock called Meetup surged 90% after the company added 1 billion yen worth of Bitcoin to their balance sheets. Now, similarly, a couple of weeks back, a gold company added Bitcoin to their balance sheets and they went into astronomical high numbers. So what is super important is that whenever a company adds Bitcoin to their balance sheet, their stock pumps to the moon, right? And this shows us that there's so much demand for Bitcoin and that Bitcoin is now being observed as a good asset to buy. Rather than 2 years ago, everybody saw buying Bitcoin as a Ponzi scheme or something like that. But good news is more than half of Americans now believe that crypto is an important asset class and a method of payment transactions. And this is according to a survey for America by Deutsche Bank, which is one of the biggest banks in the world. So that is some great news, ladies and gentlemen. If Bitcoin manages to close above the upper Bollinger Band in the monthly time frame, history says that it can double in price within a span of only 3 months. Look, even if it's not a 100% price increase, I'm not looking for a $140,000 Bitcoin. Even if we get to 100K or 90K, 95K, that would be amazing so that I can take some profits on my long positions. Now, this week is important because we have the CPI data coming out. The other sets of data are not too important for Bitcoin, but if you're in TradeFi, you do want to be tracking that. I shared all of the data and their summaries in the Telegram channel as well. But if we look at CPI data and how Bitcoin reacts to CPI data, the next one will be taking place on the 9th of April. So today, Bitcoin actually dumps negative 1.6 to 1.5%. That is the average. As a matter of fact, I think CPI data has been released, so this does tend to happen. Let me just double check Forex Factory and see if the US CPI data has been released, but no, it's not yet. It will be released in the next couple of hours, and after the release of the CPI data, Bitcoin historically does fall by 1.5-ish%. and that would not be too great. And we could close the CME gap if that happens. Historically speaking, Bitcoin for 12 times in a row has done that, and I would expect Bitcoin to dump again in the immediate short term after CPI data is released. And the final thing that I want to mention is that the S&P 500 dumped after the Fed meeting suggested that if we see inflation moving sideways, then it would make me question whether it is needed for us to do rate cuts at all. And that was a very bearish thing for the stock market. And what we can take away from here is that people want rate cuts, right? The market is expecting rate cuts. If we don't see them, then the market will continue dumping towards the downside. So because tomorrow is CPI day, expect a lot of volatility. By the way, let me know in the comment section below, were you able to catch the solar eclipse? What's super funny is in the US, the term "my eyes hurt" has hit an all-time high in terms of search trends. Guys and girls, if there is a solar eclipse, do not stare directly at it. It's going to hurt your eyes. So yeah, do be careful with that. If you guys want to meet us this Sunday, Da Vinci is hosting a meetup at, I don't know where it is actually. I think it's the Double H Hotel or something. Get your tickets. If you go to meetup.davincij15.com, I'll leave a link in the description down below. You can get your free tickets if I'm not wrong, and be quick because they are going to be selling out fast. And then you can meet us and we will talk about Bitcoin price predictions, etc. It will be an awesome event. But guys and girls, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll be seeing you all on the next video very soon. Take care, guys, and bye-bye.